What's up, Vault Hunters? It's Echo here, Queen of the Loot Goblins, bringing you another Borderlands 3 video. On today's video, we'll be talking about my Phasezerker build, Angel of Death. As most of you know, we have reached the level cap at 65, and we have gained 5 new skill points. In this video, I will be updating you on my updated skill trees, showing off some bossing, and breaking down some of Amara's skills for you. If you would like any of the gear in this video, I will be doing a giveaway for it in my Discord for Xbox users. I am also working with my staff to get a PC save file and PS4 gear, so be sure and join the Discord. The link's in the description below. If you enjoy this video or it's helped you in any way, a like would be appreciated, and subscribing would support me even more. I'm on the road to 6,000 subs, and that would be an amazing milestone to achieve. Okay, without further ado, let's get right into the video. Feel free to copy down the skill tree now. I will be going over why I have chosen some of the skills with an in-depth breakdown of the synchronicity of the build. If you have any questions about anything that's shown in this video, be sure to comment them below. I try to answer all comments timely. Let's begin with the Fist of Elements tree, as it contains all of our powerhouse elemental skills. The first skill that I want to talk to you guys about is Anima. I had some comments about going down to a random status effect on Amara, and I'd like to address that now. So what we know from Anima is this skill buffs up our status effect damage and duration. But something that you may not know is that the status effect increase also applies to Amara as well as the enemy. I call this the Amara dot. This can down you from time to time. What I do to counter it is shoot enemies to gain lifesteal from our sustainment skill until the dot has gone. If it does down you, do not fret. Second wins with this build are very easy to get. If you're having too much trouble with Anima and it's too strong for you, I would suggest taking 3 points out of Anima and putting them into Wildfire. You'll be doing a little less damage, but going down shouldn't be much of an issue. Going down the skill tree, the next skill that I'd like to highlight is Indiscriminate. This allows Amara's bullets to ricochet. Indiscriminate paired with Phasegrasp and Stillness of Mind is amazing. With this skill, you will notice you are killing enemies that aren't even in your sights. It allows Amara to have exceptional crowd control. This is great for mobbing, the Circle of Slaughter, takedowns, and trials. Next up, I'd like to talk about Sustainment. I have only 1 point in this skill because we are doing so much damage that 8% of, let's say, 1,000,000 damage will easily fill up your health bar completely. This is our lifeline, and remember, this only gives us lifesteal when using elemental damage, so stay away from kinetic weapons. Next up is my favorite skill of all time and the staple point of this build. It also separates this build from all the other builds out right now. This skill is Conflux. You don't see many people using Conflux, as Gearbox has not scaled this with Mayhem levels yet. I do hope for that in the future, as we can get a lot more damage out of it. However, just because it isn't Mayhem scaled does not mean it's useless. We are using this to get 3 status effects on our enemies at all times. With this skill, we are always getting Shock, Incendiary, and a Corrosive Dot. Why is this important, you must be wondering? Well, it pairs with the Guardian rank Armageddon. This can be found at the bottom of our Hunter Guardian rank tree. Now, with Conflux giving us 3 unique status effects, that paired with Armageddon is giving us a free 15% more damage dealt to enemies. Now, how could we get all 5 unique status effects? Well, pair that with a Nade and Shield with Cryo and Radiation Anointment, and you are now doing 5 unique status effects without any effort whatsoever. Also, now that we are doing 5 unique status effects, enemies are now getting 25% more damage dealt to them. This is why Angel of Death reigns supreme. We are squeezing the maximum damage that we can get without glitching or exploiting. This is raw damage and will survive any nerf that they throw at Amara. On to the Mystical Assault tree. Before we get into this tree, if you are new to Amara and or would like to know more about rush stacks, I urge you to check out my rush stacks explained video. I'll link it now at the top of the screen and at the end of the video if you're interested in learning some rush stacks knowledge. I highly recommend you watch that video to better understand the Mystical Assault tree and rush stacks. A couple things have changed in this tree. First being, I maxed out fast hands. The mode switch speed was too hard to pass up since I used the flipper constantly, and also the bipod mode on the Monarch. The other change is I took a point out of Ascendant and put it into Alacrity for more reload speed. We are using Stillness of Mind, and because our enemies drop in one shot, there is no longer a need to have more time in the grasp. In this tree, we have utilized all of Amara's damage skills: Do Harm, Transcend, Laid Bare, Wrath, and Remnant. Between Amara's elemental and damage powerhouse skills, you will have all the enemies dropping like flies with this build. The last thing that I'd like to touch on for this tree is you will notice there are no points into Restless. This is because we are making up for all of the action skill cooldown elsewhere. I will explain more of that later when we're talking about the gear. Let's talk about the Brawl tree. I've maxed out personal space for more damage and put 2 points into Clarity to get down the tree. I prefer Clarity over Root to Rise because if I'm not shooting an enemy and I'm trying to get into cover to reload or something like that, I like the health regen opposed to more health. And lastly, I've put our last 3 points into Arms Deal. This is giving us some much needed splash damage. Going into this tree finally allows us to unlock Blight Tiger, our corrosive action skill. Lastly, let's talk about our action skill. We're using Ties That Bind. Amara summons a giant fist that bursts from the ground and locks the target enemy in place for a few seconds. Now, enemies that are near our grasp target are linked together, and all the damage that's dealt to the grasp target gets distributed to the linked targets. This is what makes Amara so powerful, Ties That Bind. Next, for our augment, we are using Stillness of Mind. This is going to cage all of those linked targets, picking them up from the ground and putting them into a bubble. This is my favorite action skill augment because it takes all of the aggro and all of the enemies that are shooting at you and puts them into a cage, so they are no longer targeting you. As for our action skill element, I prefer Soulfire when I'm mobbing. This will take care of all of the flesh targets, and I usually pair that with a radiation weapon, so it takes care of the shield and flesh guys pretty easily. Now, if I'm fighting someone like Wotan or the Agonizer, I am going to now switch over to Blight Tiger. And if you like using an incendiary weapon, I would suggest using Shock as your action skill. Alright, that's going to do it for the skill trees. Let's move on to the gear. So for the guns, this build is literally doing so much elemental and overall damage that guns really don't matter. So when I say guns don't matter, I mean you can literally use any gun that you like and it will work just fine. I personally like SMGs, so I'm going to prefer the Flipper or the Beast over maybe somebody that likes to use the Light Show or the Herald. For me, best in slot is going to be, I use the Monarch for bossing most of the time. I don't really use the Monarch for mobbing, but you sure can. As far as SMGs, I have been on the fence about the Flipper and the Beast, so I'm going to do some more testing with that. Both are really great. As far as bossing, again, I like to use the Backburner, and also the Plague Bearer is really good. The new Kong from the DLC 4 is fantastic. I one-shot Trant with that. As far as anointments go, I prefer consecutive hits, splash damage, or even 100 ASC. Next to mags even works great too. Like I said, it's not gun dependent and it's not really anointment dependent either. I mean, you're not going to want to use a 50-150 with this build because we are not lower than half health. So you want to stick to consecutive hits, next to mags, splash damage, and 100 ASC. As far as the gear that we're using, we're still using the Old God with bonus cryo anointment. Now, you can use any shield with this. I've used the Transformer, Recharger, Stopgap. They all work great. So if you don't have the DLC, any of those will be great. You just need to make sure that you either have bonus cryo or bonus radiation, because remember, with Conflux, we are trying to get those 5 elements to do that extra 25% damage. As for our nade, we are using the Hunter Seeker. This is just to proc the Pearl when I'm bossing. And again, make sure you have the bonus radiation or cryo. You can mix and match. Either one you have will be fine. I also use the Pissnade for bossing as well, so that's really up to you. As for our artifact, we are still using the Pearl of Knowledge with fire rate and mag size. This is going to be the best for this build. It just does so much damage. Now again, I have a lot of people saying, I don't have DLC, what should I use instead? I Personally, if I didn't have the Pearl, I would probably go with the Snowdrift Victory Rush. That's just what I would go with. Now, as far as our comm, of course, we are using the Phasezerker with Action Skill Cooldown. This is the only one I found so far with Action Skill Cooldown rate. But if I had my preference, I'd have Action Skill Cooldown, Splash Damage, and then for the third passive, I'd either have Mag Size or Critical Hit Damage, or even Action Skill Damage. Now, I also wanted to talk to you guys about the Phasezerker and the perk Restless. I told you guys that I would explain the Action Skill Cooldown later, so let's get into that right now. First, let's look at the skill Restless. For 5 points, you can get 25% Action Skill Cooldown rate. To me, that seemed like a lot of points to put into a skill for only 25% when we can get it elsewhere. So I did some digging and some testing, and this is what I found out. So let's break down the Phasezerker comm. It states that we get 1% Action Skill Cooldown rate per rush stack, and we are getting 25 rush stacks. So that is a total of 25% right there. Then if you get a comm with Action Skill Cooldown rate on it as a passive, at level 65, you're getting another 39% Action Skill Cooldown rate. So with just those two on our Phasezerker, we are getting 64% cooldown rate. Now, if you look at your Guardian rank, you'll see a skill called Topped Off. With Topped Off, Action Skill Cooldown rate increases while your shields are full. So that paired with the Phasezerker comm, you're getting about a 4 to 5 Action Skill cooldown as it is. Now, if you add in Avatar, you are getting 2 Action Skill cooldowns per cooldown. So it's almost like you constantly have your action skill. So 5 points into Restless just seems like a waste to me because we're already getting 4 to 5 second cooldown regularly, and then we get 2 action skills on top of that with Avatar. So I had some comments asking about bossing with Angel of Death, and I wanted to quickly explain the interactions that are happening when I boss. The build and the skill trees all stay the same, as well as the gear. The only slight difference is I switch my action skill to Tandava, which is in the Mystical Assault tree, and I leave my action skill augment blank. The reason I switched to Face Cast is to proc the skill Transcend twice. Proccing this skill twice gives us a critical hit damage increase of 54%. This will help one-shotting or one-clipping most bosses in the game, from Grave Ward to Tron. Using Phase Cast also helps with proccing Laid Bare and Wrath, so be sure to hit your target with your cast. If you want to squeeze even more damage out, try an Amp Shield and a comm that complements your weapon, such as a passive with heavy weapon damage or sniper rifle damage. Okay guys, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, be sure to hit that like button, and if you're not subbed, please hit that sub button and turn notifications on. It's free and really helps the channel and my growth. Alright guys, I'll leave you with this Wotan kill, and as always, happy looting.
FRAG OUT!
Let's go.
If you want to catch these videos live, you can find me at twitch.tv/jadedecho_ or subscribe to my YouTube channel and be up to date with each video.